Hi there, I'm Christina Buer, and I'm one of the owners of Model Makers Group.
And I'm Tara Darby Rochetta. I'm the other co-owner, and we're so proud to have this business. We've worked in the industry as models for over 25 years each, and now we're so passionate about helping the next generation of models break into the business and have a great experience.
Yes, absolutely. And since 2009, which was 11 years ago, we are so passionate about model safety, and it really is a top priority when we talk about our business and helping new models and even current models learning the tricks and the trades of the business and what to watch out for. And we kind of have a little tagline to be smart and you will stay safe.
That's right. And hear this, the thing, scams can occur at any stage of a model's career. So yes, now that we're so experienced and so much farther down the road, it seems like these scams will be so easy to stay away from and to avoid. But the truth is that there are scammers who target models at certain points of their career. So we're going to kind of break it down into scams that occur for a new model, for a more experienced models, and then common scams for professional models. And Christina, why don't you start with this first one, paying agencies up front?
Sure. Since we've both been models for so long, 25 years each, we have seen every type of agency deal out there. And now sometimes agents will want a lot of money to sign with them on the upwards of $2,000 or $3,000. Now, if they're asking for that much money, that should be a red flag. You never want to pay that amount of money to be with an agent. Now, there are times when an agency will have a fee of $100 to $250 for their website fees. That is fine. That is not a scam because agents do have fees that they incur. But the red flag here should be if the agent is charging $2,000 to $3,000 before they will even meet with you. Do you agree, Tara?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that for these common scams for new models, just like this next one, paying to walk in fashion shows, um, it's often these scammers are targeting parents. So I think for those of us who, started modeling when we were a little bit older, we still often had to have the guidance and guardianship of our parents helping us kind of navigate that new world. And so I think for a lot of these common scams for new models, it's really targeting the parents. I mean, obviously it makes so much common sense not to pay to walk in a fashion show, right? But the truth is
Right.
for a mom who has a daughter who's desperate to break into the business or a really cute son, unfortunately, these are things that come up and it seems crazy, but we have had countless clients who have been asked to walk in fashion shows, but they have to pay to do that, pay to get the exposure, pay to get the resume points. And the fact is that's just a scam.
No, especially since you are advertising for somebody else's business. You should not be paying them to allow that to happen.
Right.
The
Um,
next one, oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, well I was going to say that kind of goes right into the next one because I think sometimes the same people that are asking you to pay to be in the fashion show are also often asking for a lot of personal information. So take it from there.
Sure. Well, I want to know, what do you think is the most common question of personal data for the phishing scams that people are asking models for?
Well, certainly, if you're going to be really working a job where you need to travel, your birth date, that has to be provided for flights and things like that. But a lot of times this information is being collected before there's a booking, before there's even a casting. And in fact, there's a very common email thread that we've seen multiple times that claims to be from Annie Leibowitz's office. Like, world-renowned photographer wants to book you sight unseen for a photo shoot out of town. And
Right.
then they're like, by the way, we need your bank information and we need your child
Never.
date of birth and all this other stuff. And it seems so obvious, but these scammers are smart. We've seen the emails and they seem to be reputable. And if you're not, if you're not savvy and you don't do your homework and kind of research it, it would be easy to fall prey to these things, especially for a parent wanting to support their children in the business.
Right. And I think that the golden rule here is if something feels too good to be true, don't do it. And never ever give out
Absolutely.
personal information. Never give out your bank account number, your routing numbers, your date of birth.
No.
There are very few times where you're going to give out that information. Oh,
Absolutely.
this next one's one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, the pricey photo shoots and showcases. We hear this constantly from our clients. So share some of those stories, Christina.
Well, in the last 11 years, I mean, we can count on how many sets of hands, how many times this has happened where a client has said, you know, XYZ agency in New York City wants me to take place in one of their showcases and have a test shoot. The test shoot is $800, and then they will consider me for representation. Don't do it. You don't need to pay somebody to have their eyes on you. You can
Right.
go to, right? There are other places where you can go to for free and be able to sign with an agent.
Yeah, and I think we understand that we're going to pay for photo shoots when we're getting started, and even throughout our careers. You know, it's not unheard of to continue to pay for headshots and professional materials. But there's a point at which it just becomes too egregious and pricey, and what they're promising is something that no one can promise. I think we all know there are no promises in this industry. You can
Mm-hmm.
hope for the best and work hard. But if anyone's promising you that this pricey showcase will absolutely lead to breaking into the business or being discovered, you need to run the other direction, because there are no promises.
And we hear, when we're in the car, we hear all the advertisements, you know, call now, we're in your city. This is your opportunity to star on whichever network. I shouldn't say any networks. So it's a scam. Certainly Tara and I have done lots of test shoots over the years, and luckily most of them have been free.
Yeah, and I
So
think for
watch for the
experienced
scam.
models, yeah, the more experienced you become, the more, the easier that is too to secure trade for prints and things like that. But yeah, pricey showcases are no good.
So the next common scam to look out for more experienced models, trafficking plots. How scary is this that
I
we live
know.
in a time where you can be trafficking occurs in the modeling industry?
It is
And
very
this happened
concerning.
in your home state.
Yeah, so this really hit close to home, because I think, you know, a model who maybe does have a little bit of experience in a small market, she really wants to often break into a bigger market. So in this case, this girl was promised a booking out of town, which, yes, you can be booked off pictures. Yes, you can be booked without a casting. But the deal was just too good to be true. And she was also told that she couldn't, you know, bring anyone with her. And the details were just, you know, she didn't get a lot of information. And then very thankfully, she was, it was discovered that this plot was happening, and she was saved at the airport. But she was literally on the plane heading to Phoenix, Arizona, I think, which isn't even that scary of a place. But there, when she landed there, her life was going to change dramatically. And so this was kind of a miracle, and certainly something that happens far less commonly than everything else on our list. But I think it's
Right.
worth noting, and I think even an experienced model can be targeted for this kind of scam.
Right. And I think the lesson here is tell people who you're in contact with. If you have travel plans for a booking or for an agent meeting, let other people know, and they can help you decide, is this safe?
Right. Yeah. And then that way they also know where you're going, who you're going to see. And you should, at the very least, have a phone interview, a FaceTime, a Zoom call if you're not able to meet in person. And I think in this case, those things didn't happen. That should be a red flag to any parent or model.
Right.
The next one is brand ambassador scam. So this is, you know, in the era of the Instagram models, and we all have these social media pages, this scam has become more common in the last few years. But it's a really raw deal if you get contacted to become a brand ambassador, but oh, by the way, you have to purchase a lot of products in order to do that. We know that's not the way it works, right?
No. And again, you are paying a company who has the money to pay you, yet they want you to purchase their products to help them. It's not fair, and really it's not ethical. You
It's
know,
not ethical.
as a real brand ambassador, sure, if you want to promote a company and make money from helping them sell a product, but you should not have to buy their product.
Exactly.
So the next one is for uncomfortable castings. And I know, Tara, you have a story here from Rainey in Los Angeles.
Yeah, so Rainey is a professional model, but even, years ago when she was still becoming experienced, she could share endless stories with me about having uncomfortable castings in Los Angeles. And I think one point that she brought up that was so smart on her part is, in a city like Los Angeles or New York, where there's also a lot of film production, anytime you're going to a set, if it's off location, you will find signs on the highway or signs leading to the production. It's very clearly marked, so you know that you're going to the right place, and that's in the film industry. I think in the modeling industry, it's like you have to walk into a shady warehouse and hope that you're in the right place and hope that you're going to find the right person in that giant place to meet with and to try and close with. So it can lead to uncomfortable situations when it's not clearly marked. Oftentimes, models are spread out, you're by yourself. So I think she had a really good idea of, there should be just a more common, basic idea of like, let's make sure the models know where to go and stay safe.
Yeah.
But we've also had other uncomfortable situations. I think we could all attest to that.
And think back to our years in Los Angeles, where you have to go to a rough section of LA because that's where the warehouse is. And you have to let people know where you are. I think Tara and I used to always share, like, this is the casting that we have. This is the time. This is who we're meeting with, just to have that safety person on your side to make sure that, you have my back.
Yeah, you need to have a buddy system always.
So this next,
go ahead.
This next beautiful person is Tara. Look at you, you're a babe.
This is a throwback picture, let's be honest. But this is me when I was working, working in Los Angeles as a model. And unfortunately, inappropriate behavior on stage or backstage or on set can happen at any point in your career. But I think it's we expect that would happen maybe for a new model because she doesn't know what's appropriate or inappropriate. But even as I was experienced and working professionally in a large market, these things would still happen. I'll never forget a photo shoot. This was way back when I was in high school, but I was working doing a catalog photo shoot, and I was at the photographer studio, and the designer wanted to always go into the dressing room with me while I was changing clothes. And he said it was to pin the garments, but you don't actually have to be in the dressing room the whole entire time, right? I could have come out and he could have done that in the open. There were just a lot of inappropriate moments like that. And here's the thing, I didn't know, because I was still gaining experience, that I should have stood up for myself. And the photographer who was there, who was professional, should have stood up on my behalf. And so I think I've learned a lot of lessons there. And if you see something or feel something that isn't right, get out of the situation, say something, because none of us need to put up with that.
Or if you see something, say something. You owe nothing to them, and no one will ever be upset with you if you walked off of a job because you felt uncomfortable.
Right. My agent, I'm sure, would be like, get out of there.
That is never okay. So this next model is Ciara. She's so beautiful. She's so sweet, as you can see how gorgeous she is. And she has a story about not getting paid for work, which happens all the time.
It sure does.
It's shameful when you're hired for a job. You show up, you're ready, you're professional, you give 100%, and then you don't get paid. It's, one of these very frustrating things where it's happened to both of us, Tara, and so many of our friends, and Ciara, where you work for a client and you never get paid.
And I think the scam here is that, these designers or companies know that you're just a model, right? And I think even if we're incorporated and have our own, business entity, it's still going to be much harder for us to chase down money. This happens when we're doing a booking through our agency, or even when we've done independent work. So I think that they know that the littlest guys, get paid last. The production company's probably getting paid. The advertising company's getting paid. The photographer's getting paid. The last person to get paid is always talent. And I think it's a scam that just tests our perseverance. I think when we go after it, and we had to call that designer in downtown Dallas like 100 times before he paid. So it happens at any point, but I think it's unfortunate and can happen even when you're working as a professional model.
It's shameful, and I don't know how these people sleep at night knowing that they're scamming talent,
I
because
know.
sometimes talent needs it more than anybody else on
That's
set.
right. So that's a good point. Um,
Um,
this is another like more uncommon one, but I think that
mhm.
when we see this scam, it's more commonly when a model has made it, when she's
Yeah.
working professionally, she's in the limelight, and that's where some really bad guys can take advantage.
Yes. This was Cassidy Wolf, who was a former Miss Teen USA, beautiful girl, smart, had everything together. And she found out that she was being sextorted. And she went right to the media. She ended up on the Today Show with her story, and she was really empowered by someone who was trying to take advantage of her.
Yeah, so I think, this can happen if, I think as models, we're comfortable with our bodies. Sometimes we do photo shoots where we're showing skin, where we're being creative. I think in this case, it was somebody was secretly taping her.
Yes.
But I think this could also happen if, with images that we've taken throughout our career. And we've seen this happen with other celebrities too, but, people can demand money or threaten to ruin your life through these photos. And Cassidy absolutely did the right thing by getting local law enforcement involved, and ultimately the perpetrator ended up going to jail. So she did the right
Mhm.
thing. She spoke up and has since become an advocate for
Yes.
other women who find themselves in that situation.
And I think a lesson here, there are a couple things. Lesson number one, make sure you have a privacy screen on your computer. I have one, it's magnetic, it's very handy. And the second thing is, if somebody tries to extort you, go right to the police. You have nothing to be afraid of. You did nothing wrong.
That's so true. Here you are, lovely Christina.
Back in the day, there I am. So this is an interesting topic, last minute contract changes, which happens all the time. I guess all these things are happening all the time, right? But you work for a client and the usage is for e-commerce. So it's just an online one-time use. And that was what happened with this client. I love them. I worked for them for years, and I was always paid in a timely manner. And before I knew it, I ended up on another site, which was not in my contract. And a friend on the other side of the country said, "Hey, you're on this site. I didn't know you modeled for them." And I had not.
Neither did you.
Either did I. And the client sold my photos for their product to somebody else. And I asked for more money because they were using me for new usage, for this was a different contract. They said no, and they never hired me again. So
Right.
I got to
Well, it's
really see their true colors.
kind of a combination of not getting paid for work and then the
Mhm.
contract change. I think
Right.
another way we see this is like, maybe you're working a job, your agent has approved a contract with certain terms. You get to set, sometimes our agents sign on our behalf. Sometimes when we get to set, we have to sign additional paperwork. And
Mhm.
sometimes sneaky production staff can change the terms of the contract or provide an old unrevised contract that you sign, and now suddenly all that hard work that your agent did working on your behalf trying to get you the best deal is out the window. So I think anytime we're faced with those last minute contract changes, especially if you're working under the protection of your agency, call them, take a picture, make sure that you're
Mhm.
signing the latest version. And then you did the right thing, Christina. You asked if and when you find that your image is being used outside of the original
Mhm.
terms, you have to ask for that. You
Right.
were owed that. I'm sorry it didn't work out.
That's okay. It happens sometimes.
Catfishing.
So,
We've heard this happen a few times, and you're more familiar with this story. So you share this, Christina.
well, when we talk about catfishing, it's such a strange term. Like
Yes, it
what
is.
what is catfishing? So that's when someone assumes you. So they take your identity. That's the word I'm looking for. So they take your identity and they pretend to be you. And this model, her identity was taken, and her friend, I believe, tried to sabotage her relationship with her now husband. It didn't work in this instance, so the catfisher was caught. But it happens quite a bit in this industry, especially on social media, on Instagram and in Twitter, mostly on Instagram, where people are constantly stealing your profiles. In fact, I have a fake profile.
Right. So you can do like a Google image search and see like
Mhm.
where your images are being used. I think this one's a harder one to track down. It can be really messy to clean up. But unfortunately, I think if you're a successful model working in the industry, you suddenly become a target for these types of scammers.
Mhm.
So
But,
kind of
but
keep,
how unfortunate if it's somebody you know.
right. It can,
That's the sad part.
that is strange. That's right. So I think the takeaway is that not to forget that, scammers target models at all stages of their career. There are different types of scams that are more common based on your experience and your savvy, but we can all fall prey to these scammers because they're pretty good at what they do.
Yeah, never think that don't ever get too comfortable in this industry. It's always changing. There are always bad guys out there trying to figure out new ways to take advantage of you. So just always have your feelers out there for, like really digging deep and trying to figure out, okay, am I safe? Am I doing all the things that I should be to protect myself?
Yeah. So we've got 3 tips. We gave some kind of throughout, but like Christina already shared, use common sense. If it seems too
Mhm.
good to be true, it probably is. So whether that's a booking, a deal for travel, there's so many instances where I can see this being applicable, but just use your common sense.
Mhm. The next one is be smart, do your homework, which means if you're meeting with a new agent, look them up online, make sure they're legitimate. Sometimes agents are through the BBB, the Better Business Bureau. You can look on there. Not all agents are. You can also, check out other avenues within unions to make sure that they are a legitimate agency. So do your homework.
Yeah, do your homework. And then don't be afraid to speak up for yourself, whether that's when you find yourself in an uncomfortable position or if you feel like someone's changing the terms of the contract on set, don't be afraid to speak up for yourself because you are a businesswoman. As a model, we are all business women and
Mhm.
men. And model safety, stay smart, be safe, continues to be a top priority for us at Model Makers Group.
Such great information. Thank you so much.
That's
As
a
we're
wrap.
wrapping this up, that's a wrap. Thank you so much for listening to us.
Yeah, thank you.